everyone. This is SomerSand Chats About Improv with Johan Somers and me, Maggie.
And our guest?
Aree Witoelar.
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect.
Hello, Ari. Welcome, and it's so great that you are with us.
Hey, thanks for the invite to chat about improv. I love chatting about improv.
Then you are the right place. Ari, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, yeah, my name's Aree, and I am a scientist. I come from Indonesia, and I picked up improv along the way. I've been doing it now for 15 years in Netherlands and Norway. And I've always loved improv and the freedom it gives. But I'm also at this point interested to bring my cultural background. Like I said, I'm from Indonesia, from Asia, and how we can use that in improv. So that's my shtick nowadays.
Today we're going to talk about Cloud Atlas. And Cloud Atlas is an improv format. Yeah, you are teaching in festivals, international festivals, and we don't know anything about it ourselves, but we thought it was so interesting that you could have a little chat about that.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so Cloud Atlas is a format that I teach both in Oslo and recently in an improv festival, Würzburg in Germany.
Mhm.
And the idea is that it is a full-length play. So it could be up to 1.5 hours long of improv. And it comes in chapters. So Cloud Atlas, if you're familiar with the name, comes from a book that's named Cloud Atlas, turned into a movie as well. And the idea is that it has these 6 different chapters that is spread out throughout human history. So you might start off in ancient times, and then you move on to the age of discovery, where you have great ships sailing across Atlantic, discovering the new world, and or it can also be in the Japanese Edo era. It can also be contemporary, and it can also be in future. So the book itself has like these 6 different chapters that move forward through time. And when I was reading the book and watching the movie, I thought this is exactly apt for an improv format, because you're turning these chapters into different kind of scenes. Yeah, that has certain kind of storylines. And in improv, you like to start off with like several different stories and how they tie them together, right? And this fits perfectly. And a huge part of it that I think is essential for Cloud Atlas is the fact that it is spread out throughout the world. So it becomes like this kind of global improv. So it's not centered around certain points in the world, but it can take place in China. It can take place in New Zealand. It can take place in, and I think it's really nice to see these scenes that happen in different places. And if you have a diverse multinational cast, then they also bring different stories. Sorry for the long answer. I'm very passionate about this project.
So are these different stories, the 6 or 7 stories, which they are played with by different performers, different actors, or is each story played by the whole troupe?
So each story is played by the entire ensemble, and we have ensembles of 8 players, and we have a lot of these group scenes, because these group scenes are very stage picturesque. You know, it really brings you the feeling that you are in ancient times, and you see people are doing different things. So everyone joins in the games.
Okay. If you play all the different stories, how do they link to each other at a certain point, or is that open?
You would realize that sometimes there's certain thematics that comes into play. Uh, what we say is, we don't look for that. We just play each scene hard,
Hmm.
and we each scene are standalone. But as you play along, suddenly you realize, like, oh, this feels like something that has happened in another scene. And I think this is the beautiful thing about Cloud Atlas, is that, like the book itself, there's something that connects humans throughout the history. Whether it is, and it usually comes in a more bigger abstraction, like power, wielding power.
Yeah.
We have things about wielding power in different eras of humanity, or about reliance to technology. It doesn't have to be a futuristic thing. It could be like something in the past where they're just discovering a new sword, and then it becomes reliance on technology.
Yeah.
But you realize that there's like these themes that involuntarily hits you. So it's really cool.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a surprise for everyone to find a team at the end of the show.
Yeah, yeah. If for the performers themselves, they're like, "Oh yeah," your teammate says, like, something that connects to the other scene, and then you're like, "Yeah, absolutely, surprising."
What's a
Yeah.
typical audience suggestion you ask for before the show starts?
As we usually ask them for something that connects them to their past. So, for instance, what occupation does your one of your grandfather have, or an occupation that might not exist anymore, like, like who horseshoe maker. I
Yeah.
mean, you still have them, but it's not as common today as it was before. So these kind of suggestions can also bring you to different places, or it can also be just any any object, like a cat, can place you into ancient Egypt,
True.
could place you into current day, just having a housemate that's a cat, or it can take you into the future where the overlords are cats and humans are prisoners. Maybe that's not future. Maybe that's today.
How much do you have to know about history when you play Cloud Atlas?
That's a very interesting point. So when I first taught this format, that was the thing that terrifies uh, the players, right?
Mhm.
Because, okay, I don't really know about history in Vienna, etc. Um, but as long as you approach it in the right way, and then we have like 8 people, some might be more knowledgeable than the other ones, and that allows you to play it. Like the one that is more knowledgeable can place things that are historically accurate,
Yeah.
and then the others can play along with it. And my thought is, you can try going into historical accuracy, but if you miss out on some things, as long as you do it with a good heart, that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. So we had an Egyptian cast member in one of our shows, and then she took us to a tragedy that happens in Cairo. And obviously, she sets up this table, which can be a very sensitive scenario if people don't know their history. But the way she sets it up is for others also to just like be respectful and play with the scene. And then you have the scene in Cairo, Egypt, that you never see elsewhere on the improv world, right? So this is my idea of Cloud Atlas, is to bring scenes that you never see, scenes that happens in different parts of the world that you never see before. What I think is, a lot of times when we started out improvising, we have all these people, and then the focus was trying to find the intersection. Like, what piece of culture does everyone know? And then you play within narrow thing. But these days I'm thinking, yeah, if you have all these cast members coming in with different cultures, it should be not an intersection, but a union of all of them.
Yeah.
So then we have like this scene can be anywhere that is a combination of everyone. Instead of trying to find what is the smallest, what is the common thing, you expand your world.
How many performers do you usually involve?
So we have a cast of 8 people, and this format can be played from 6 to 8 people. So we had usually 8 people where we played it also in different places, so not just Oslo and Germany recently, but we also had a cast of 7 in India online, and we had a cast of 12 people in Estonia. So it is quite fluid. Yeah.
Do you speak all those languages, Aree?
No. So the shows are in English, but it might sometimes hit different languages as well. When I was teaching in Germany, they had a scene where it's fully in German, and it was about a cafe in Vienna when the first cafes were invented, sort of.
Nice.
And then you had people. We had people from Switzerland, Germany, Austria. They visit this cafe. I mean, as they are improvisers from Germany, Switzerland, and then they had like this very cool German scene where you feel the accents are different, etc., etc. I didn't understand Germany, but I understand improv, and I saw what they're doing there. Like, that is so neat.
And where do you perform this usually, Aree?
So we had a couple shows in Oslo, and part of the community Improv that we played. This is also the second time around that we did this. It was very successful to bring in people who's not familiar with improv, and then see that we can do a piece that's understandable for the audience, sort of like it feels like a theater piece. And then I also did a couple shows in Germany with this format, where I taught for a week. It's a 5-day workshop centered around these building different kind of skills that is necessary for the format itself. So I think the format itself is not the most important thing, that you follow these kind of steps, but there's certain spirits that you want to bring into the format, like playing together very well, respecting different cultures, giving focus to one another. So these workshops are trained to do that, and then later on we play this format.
Aree, can you remind our audience the title of this play?
We call it Cloud Atlas, and usually when people hear Cloud Atlas, they are familiar with the name in the books and in the movie. So they have an idea what it is. They have an idea of the global scale of grandeur of these things. What they're always very curious about is, like, are you going to reenact the same scenes in the book? Which is, no, we are going to improvise completely different scenarios, but we have the same structure of this book.
So this is why you say it's some kind of combination between theater and improv, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. So it's very theatrical, bordering on dramatic and comedic, and it's also played at a slower pace than usual, the kind of like comedy improv, because we're setting up environments. We're setting up environments for audience to sink in and suddenly feel like, oh, we are now in medieval something, and not just like medieval Europe, but medieval Canada. Like, have you ever had a medieval Canada before? We had scenes where we have, Marco Polo's journey, Silk Road,
Yeah.
basically the West coming
Mm.
across into discovering China, and that's usually the story being told because you have Western improvisers. But we can flip that around, and then the scene becomes about the Chinese civilization and what do they feel when Marco Polo arrives.
Oh,
So it's
yes.
how you change these perspective, and I think that's super cool.
Well, where is your next show?
Oh, I wish to do it once a year and locally, because it is a massive undertaking to get all these philosophy right. But I'm hoping it becomes a regular in our theater once a season or once a year.
And which theater is that?
Improv,
Okay.
Improv Oslo.
Okay. Are you planning any more workshops in international festivals?
I am planning to. I'm looking for festivals that are international. Yeah, definitely, because it brings different kind of cultures together, and then I think this sort of like frames together nicely.
So it's about 5 days of workshop and a show.
Yeah, it can be condensed as well. So when I was teaching in Estonia, it was just a 1 day workshop.
Okay.
So we go to some more critical points of the workshop, and in Estonia we had players with like Baltic origins. We had Lithuanian players, we had Latvian players, Estonian, Russian, and the workshop is just like how to play with your different cultural backgrounds in in a respectful way with one another. Uh, Also, yeah, going back to the thing about like looking in a different perspective, we had that scene in Estonia where it was about the space race. And then, space race always been told about Neil Armstrong,
Mhm.
one small step for man, etc., from the American perspective.
Yes.
But when I was teaching it in Estonia, uh, they were looking at the space race from the Soviet side, which I thought was very interesting. So they were talking about Yuri Gagarin.
Yeah.
You had different kind of command controls there. Uh, it's just beautiful.
It is.
If you have a crowd that is interested to try this format, what you can do is just contact me and say like we have these players, we want to put together a show. Improv Comedy Bangalore did that for me. They asked like, can you do something that unites us together? And then they had seven players training for a month online, and then did the show as well. So I'm open if you feel like, oh, we want to do something that unites the team and also allows us to bring our culture into improv. Just give me a call on that on my name, Aree Witoelar, or on my improv page, Aree Witoelar Improv. Yeah.
We'll put a link for people to follow it. Yeah.
Yes.
We're very happy to have you today with the first part of Chats About Improv. And we will be back very soon with Aree Witoelar. Thank you very much, Harry. See you soon.